I've been watching this show
Forrest Gump?
called Preppers.
Oh,
it's called Doomsday Preppers. I think
seen
on
it.
Netflix.
I've seen
and
it.
I had never really. I think I'd seen like a couple clips on YouTube, but the other day I sat down and I thought I'll watch one of these. Maybe it'll be funny. I watched 7 or 8 of those in a row, and it is the funniest fucking show because first of all, every single one of these prepping is an exclusively white people thing. I've discovered. There is not a single non-white guy on there prepping his farm for the fucking apocalypse. But another thing, these guys are usually between a line where you're laughing at them for thinking they're prepared, or you're looking at them like, oh my God, if shit goes down, this guy is the Negan of the new world. Like that level of shit. And I watched a couple different episodes that made me laugh really hard. The best one is in like South Carolina or Tennessee or Kentucky, somewhere in there. There's it was Georgia, maybe. There's a park called Deadwood, and it's like a reenactment of 18th century or 19th century kind of Wild West shit, where you can see cowboys do fake shootouts with the Indians, and you can see a cannon go off, and you can go into the old saloon and that shit.
Yeah,
and this is a real theme park you can go to, and it is interviewing the guy who owns this theme park. And right from the beginning, he's like, "Yep. So my family, we've had this theme park for many years at this point, and it was just 10, 15 years ago. I thought, I got to start prepping. And I thought, where better than to use my own business here as the prepping town. And so for the last 15 years, I've turned Deadwood into a post-apocalyptic fortress." Now, and I'm not shitting you. Watch this. This guy who owns a theme park, he was like walking around his restaurant. He's like, "Well, I got a little thing around here. You order 9 cases of food for the park. I take the 10th. I've got 4 years of dried food stored up in different places around here. I'll show you this one storehouse. I'm not showing you the rest." And then with the camera people, and then he'd walk around and be like, "You see over here? We got a little putt-putt course. What you notice about that right there? Nothing, right? But you stand right here, you crouch below this post and this wall. What do you have right there? Field of sight over the entire area of approaching the chain link fence we have. And so this right here, and you don't even know that, this entire putt-putt course, reinforced concrete, bulletproof. You can hide behind anything on this course, and you will be okay. And so I have someone right here on hole 7, someone right there on hole 4, the entire east wing of this area covered by fire." And then he would go back and he's like, "The big thing I wanted to get going was my defensive cannon. It started out just being a cannon we had on site to shoot blanks to impress the comers. I realized soon after I can put BBs in there. And I've tested it. Now, if I have this pointed to the southern end of my park, it covers an area of 14 yards by 3 yards high. You know what that'll do to a man? Tear him right up, I'll tell you what. Tear him right up." And this guy, he was walking around his fucking theme park talking about how all the things he'd put in there. I don't know how, look up Deadwood theme park. I don't know how it's legal what he was doing, because a lot of what he was admitting to was like just like stealing money from a business to store it away. But I guess it is his business, so he can do whatever he wants. But it was so fucking, and the whole time, like, he would say little fantasy things where he'd be like, "I've always loved the Old West.
This is a pretty legit theme park."
I told you, it's really legit. He'd be walking around in like the old general store or whatever, and he'd be like, "And you know what I really think? I love the Old West. It's been a favorite part of my life for years. When it goes down, when the Meridian Midwest, when it goes down, I think life's going to return similar to the Old West. And you know what? I think people are going to be happier for it in the long run." And it was clear he's just living out a fantasy that it will go back to the Old West. He didn't even prep in the way most of them do, where they get high high tech things. All of his like procurement of resources was 19th century Old West means.
Oh, yeah.
Like he was he built, and every one of these people calls their fort the Alamo. Every single one of these people, because the voiceover will be like, and Ted built this $3 million compound in South Texas, and he calls it the Alamo. And every episode, that voice has to go, and he calls it, and he calls it, and he calls it the Alamo. Like they're all the Alamo. One of the guys spent, I think, $7 million building a castle. Like a full-on castle on a peak somewhere as a prep thing. And until this point, this was the first episode that changed the kind of candor of the show. It had been, all right, we're going to follow 3 different people, and then there's a score at the end that expert preppers are like, here's your score on water, food, shelter, safety,
and evaluate their like escape plan and things like that. They say when things go to, and they have a clause, right? I think it will be an economic catastrophe. I think it'll be a hurricane. And then they take that like possibility and what they would do about it and rate how well they'd handle their particular apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll be like, this guy, I think his thing was an EMP, where somebody detonating a nuke above the atmosphere, destroying all electronics or some such shit. And he, like early in the episode, he's like, yeah, well, I've gotten really into building this castle. I've spent, I think, about $2 million on it so far. And so I'm having my 10 kids up here today to, I want to see who I want to sign this off to when I eventually die. And this fucking cunt of a dude.
I hope there's a reality show for his inheritance.
He literally turned it into a reality show for his own inheritance, where he had all 10 of his kids come in, and he's sitting there like giving them solemn advice, where he's like, I've decided I'm not leaving very much for anyone in my will. All the money I have is going into this castle, is going into this fortress, and I need 2 of you, because he had 2 wives, each had like 4, 5, 6 kids or something.
And he's like, Mormonism.
I'm taking someone from this wife and someone from this wife, and the 2 of you are going to be my inheritors for this. And so this fucking asshole of a dude took his 10 children and he made them compete for their inheritance. And so he would even
please describe the competitions.
And in theory, they're competing for their future survival.
They are. Yeah, because not all of them are getting access to the castle. Right? And this is an enormous castle. It's way too big of a castle. It's literally all stone. Because he's like,
too big.
Yeah. And so he has all of them come out there, and he's like, now, my oldest son, he is the oldest, but I don't trust him with a firearm. I think he's a little bit lazy. I don't care for some of his attitude, and so we'll see what he does today. And like he like showed a clip of his son like trying to shoot the gun, and his son being like, "Oh, I've never done this before," like being cutesy. And then it cuts back to the dad where he's like, "I was not impressed, not at all. He's not going to deal with that." Like his other daughters would come out, and this guy was trash talking his own children through the preppers camera crew. Kyle, what we're talking about is this guy with 10 children built a fucking castle and then brought them out there, and in the middle of the preppers episode dropped the bomb of like, and now only 2 of you will have the rights to this castle, and you have to compete to get it. And he's this multimillionaire maniac.
Is it so like a
shooting competitions?
Okay.
They're doing shooting competitions. They're doing like orchestrated counter assaults where he's like standing in the back and he's like, Tim, Alan, rifles to the front, fire, back up. Alice, Susan, bows. And they're like shooting bows and arrows at these dolls and things. This guy's fucking insane. He's fucking insane.
But you know what he's
He's shit talking his own kids the whole way through on the private preppers camera. They'll like do something in front of him and he'll come out and be like, yeah, Alice, honestly, not impressed. Not impressed one bit by my 3rd oldest daughter. I thought she might have a better chance at this, but there's no way she's getting a piece of this pie.
But he's not poor.
No. He's inordinate. He built a fucking castle.
That's what surprises. No, I've seen this show too. And it's usually people who are we really could use this money in a better way, and a future that is more likely to happen. If you really have like $1,500 and you want to prepare for the future, go to community college, right? That will improve your future, perhaps.
The rates on IRAs were looking attractive.
But instead, they're
this
like
9-inch gun on the front of the house, the trailer home, modular home, as I like to call it. It is going to pay dividends.
They're investing in Connex boxes with like enough armor to hold back a 22, and acting like
those are
that.
only $1,800 a pop.
It blows me away. And this future that they're preparing for, I always say this, is a fantasy. It's not a likely outcome. It's one that they'd rather live in that world.
Exactly. The word is fantasy, because they are fantasizing about this new world order where the currency they've chosen becomes primary. And I married into a family of these people. I don't know if I should be ashamed to say it. And
no, you should talk about it thoroughly.
I'll be happy to. I received as a marriage gift from the Latter-day Saints some beans and other thing that did not make my last move, I'll confess. But it's
Hey, what box did we put the 8 tons of beans in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I threw all that out, baby. I'm gonna be honest. You're fine.
I'm not worried about it. Absolutely.
You threw away our 3,000 pounds of beans.
But see, in the world of preppers, you're more accepted if you've thought of something else to prep for. Because if you say, all right, we're fortified against this level of enemy, and you come up with something like, well, what if they train the bears? Everybody else, oh my goodness, I've got to sharpen more sticks. And it's like, it's this kind of craziness.
These Kodaks are smarter than they let on.
That's
it.
Yes.
They can use weapons.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it's a thing. I mean, certainly not anything that I spend any time on, but Mormonism in Metro Atlanta is quite prevalent, and they love some prepping. They love getting together and be like, "Have you tuned your ham radio today?" Well, no, but I literally drove up to one, and I had a CB radio on my Mercedes for the Cannonball, so to hear what truckers say about cops, and he's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like,
"Oh shit."
Is that the code? Are you ready?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And but when they heard, when these guys hear the person featured in the show you watch come in, like, about 15 years ago, they're going to go, amateur. Dude, this guy wasn't even ready for Y2K. He wasn't even thinking about it. I was there. I had 2 drops of bleach in the bathtub. We were going to drink for days. I mean, it's that kind of thought process of like, you didn't prepare. Because, I mean, my father-in-law was ready for Y2K and probably was a little bit disappointed on January 1st, 2000, saying, man, I thought Will Smith was going to be the end of it all. But, it's like, it's not always
I'm
the way
so proud of my family.
You're totally right.
Yeah. My dad he woke up the next day and was like, everything's good, huh? All right. like no attention was paid to
the
Y2K.
prepper thing is totally a fantasy on behalf of, well, not necessarily a fantasy, because I won't say that something bad couldn't happen, and like if something shitty goes down, whether or not it's the EMP or some terrorist attack, you're still going to be happy you have 4,000 pounds of beans in the cellar.
Right.
But
there
was one specifically that jumped out to me as clearly someone fantasizing in this show, where there was this hick-ass country guy who had like his own team. I think like the 7-day Marauders or something, and he was like building his own team around this farm, and it was a really impressive setup. But half the episode was talking to this guy who lived in a city a ways away, and it was like, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to join Ted's 7 Marauders. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be even harder because my wife and daughter really don't want to do it. But I've already sold our home, and I've decided we're moving onto this guy's compound. And so the whole way, like, the wife and daughter are just not having it. He's like, this is pretty neat, huh? This is pretty cool. And they'll like go to the daughter in a private interview, and she's like, I'm gonna miss all my friends, and I don't want to go, and it's sad. And the wife's like, I know he's just doing this because he wants to take care of us, but I don't want to live on Ted's survival farm. It's not going to be good.
So my friend Eric, he's his YouTube channel is Iraq Veteran 8888, which is not Heil Hitler. Okay, it has a whole different meaning. It has something to do with
Hulk Hogan.
It's people make that mistake sometimes. 88 is code for Heil Hitler. It's not it. I promise you. He explained it to me one time. It has something to do with his army number or something like that. He was in the military. Very nice guy. Those aren't his politics at all. Just clear that up right away. He was asked to do a TV show. I got asked to do a bunch of these silly TV shows, and we always turned him down. It wasn't enough money. It was too much time. It wasn't going to work. Well, I go into his store one day that he worked at he doesn't work there now. He's sort of moved on from that. But I'm like, Christian? Is that you? And this guy, Christian, this producer who I had went to LA and hung out with, he had the hottest girlfriend I'd ever seen. I feel like she was part of his sales pitch. He he wanted to do a TV show with me at one time, and it didn't work out because of the reasons I mentioned before. He's there, and they're filming, and I'm like, what's going on? You guys are doing a TV show, huh? Like, yeah. And I was very excited for Eric. I was like, this will be real cool. It'd be cool to see Eric in a TV show and see what they make of it and all that stuff. You never know how these things are going to turn out. He could be the next Sons of Guns without all the child molestation. And so the time comes when the show's been made, and it's a prepping show. Him and his guys are going to people's houses and they're prepping for them. They are the guys who do the installation of they're like, hey, we want to be prepared. We want an underground lair that's prepared for this or that, or we want a bulletproof safe room or whatever. And they go do it, and cool concept. I thought prepping was real big at that time. And, but they didn't know what it was going to be called. That was one of those decisions that was going to be left up to the production company. And that's another reason why I was always iffy about these things. There'd be little clauses like that. Oh, you don't get to name the show or have any input. Oh, and then we own your IP forever. And any merchandise you ever sell, we'll get 50% of that. I said, well, shit, why do you get 50% of fucking my t-shirts? Like that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be stuff like that. So the time comes. The show is available. It was A&E or some shit. I don't know, True TV, whatever. And Kitty's like, oh, the show's out. Let's purchase it. Let's watch an episode of Eric prepping. And she's texting back and forth to Eric, and she's like, what's it called? What's it called? And he's like, yeah, we didn't have input, I guess. And no, but what's it called? What's it called? Prepper Hillbillies. And she's like, isn't there already a show called that? And he's like, no. That's the Hillbilly Preppers.
So they were trying to piggyback off some other marketing.
Look at this link. We are the Prepper Hillbillies. This is not. I'm pretty sure they're photoshopped into this promotional image.
That's him on the left.
On the Share TV site you linked, it says that this show has one fan.
It does say
look, I'm not here to shit on Eric. Look, the TV show went poorly, I think, but the main thing was the name, because I know that he did not want to be a prepper hillbilly. That is not what he wanted to be, and it was ridiculous. And I watched a few episodes of it.
I remember Barry from his YouTube channel.
Yeah, he passed away.
I really like that guy.
Nice guy. Yeah. But yeah, for real. And I just remember being like, isn't there already no, you're thinking of the Hillbilly Preppers.
Yeah.
We are the Prepper Hillbillies.
Not to be confused.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody needs a laugh, watch Preppers, because it is hilarious. One of the guys sunk like $3 million in his fortress, which he named the Alamo again. And it was like 400 miles out of Houston or something. It had these two big stone buildings connected by a path. He had concrete water containers that he even tested, because he was like, I would buy plastic, but I don't trust that it's going to stand up to flames. And so he made Molotov cocktails and hucked them at his own concrete water supply to show that it would work. He has his own well with the rights to the water there. And then it was showing their intense thing, he and his partner. And his partner accidentally shot a rifle inside this blind, so it creates a lot of noise. But both of them had ear protection on. And this dude who spent millions and millions and millions of dollars prepping for this got so upset and so broken by a firearm going off and creating that much noise that he was like openly weeping and freaking out and like, oh, you even like the partner guy didn't own any of it. He was just this eccentric guy who knew a lot about explosives or something. And he's just sitting there talking. He was like, oh, I can't even hear, man. I can't even hear. You fucked up. I gotta let you go. I gotta let you go. You done fucked up, man. You fucked up. And he's laying on the ground crying because the gun went off too close to him with ear protection on. And it was like that moment where I'm like, oh shit. If anything does go down and this guy so much as stubs his toe, then whatever alpha marauder shows up has a dope setup. Like, it's gonna be, that guy is going to seize your land, beat the shit out of you, kill you, and then he'll be ecstatic that you decided to spring for the concrete. Why was he so upset?
I don't understand. Just that he heard a loud noise?
Yeah. No, accidentally discharging a firearm.
No, it wasn't an accident. He was next to a guy who he knew was going to fire, but he had the barrel inside the blind where you're supposed to put it outside, and it had a muzzle brake on it, which
very loud
does make it louder. But the way he reacted to it was not at all. Someone who spent millions of dollars in prepping.
I'm exposing myself here.
It's a metal stand they had that they were practicing sniping from, and so like it wasn't a cloth.
It's like a shed with a big open window.
Basically, an elevated shed, and they were in there. And the one gentleman barely had a little bit of the muzzle brake inside of the blind and fired, and of course that makes a ton of noise.
Oh, so if the muzzle had just stuck outside the wall a little bit, then the noise would have gone outside mostly.
Yeah, then it would have been fine. It was an amateur mistake for that guy to make, but the way that this guy responded with openly weeping and like calling the paramedics and things, it was like, oh my god, dude, like you're not prepared.
If that's rustling your jimmies, it's going to be a rough time in any sort of real scenario.
Well, friends aren't that valuable in a post-doomsday scenario.
Yeah. That's true. You always want to go it alone.
I deafened Scott one time. We were on top of this truck. This truck had like a big platform built on top of it, and we're just driving through the wilderness in Texas looking for anything to kill. If we see a fox, he's dead. If we see a coyote, he's dead. We see, the armadillo or a wildcat or a mountain lion. We're just going to shoot whatever we see.
Child.
Well, maybe not that, but we're lights are everywhere, and we're just kind of hauling ass. And what was it? I think it was a coyote. It was something like that. It was something that was like, that'll be a good one to get. It was either a coyote or certainly wasn't a wildcat. But that's what we wanted. We wanted to get a mountain lion because like there were mountain lions in the area. But I figured that thing would hear us coming. Anyway, I opened up on this coyote with a very loud, like an AR-10 with a muzzle brake right next to Scott's head, and he was a little deaf for a day, on the left side or whatever. He was a little upset. Those things are fucking loud. They're so fucking loud.
What was it exactly? Yeah. Did you say already?
I think it was a coyote.
No,
coyote.
It's an AR-10.
Like an AR-10. Like a 308 caliber.
Do you think it was a coyote because you still missed?
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Okay.
I didn't get it. Yeah. We're bumping along, and I just went da-da-da-da, and then there's just dust.
There was just a vague movement in the woods. I fired. Yeah.
Those were sort of the rules of engagement at that time. Like that. That's when it's a lot of fun.
And the coyote yelled, "Stop, please!" I'm a person.
Agua.
And you said, "This is the slyest fox I've ever come across."
Coyotes are a real problem.